Hi guys, welcome to the channel. In today's video, we'll walk through on how to create a string variable and use them for prototyping a switcher on this fashion e-commerce app screen. So without further ado, let's get started. Before moving forward, let me do a quick overview of variables. Learning variables in Figma is a bit complicated topic and requires some basic variable understanding. Variables are something that vary in value. And in Figma, they act as a dynamic element that allow us to store and reuse values like colors, sizes, text, and many more. You can apply these variables to different design properties like corner radius, spacing, padding, layer opacity, fill, or typography. You can also use variable to create interesting and complex prototypes. Like here is a soundbar that changes its states based on our input, a working graph that changes its values based on what you put, a working keyboard, and a color picker that changes the background of poster based on what color you pick. Now different variables determine what kind of value a variable contains and where it can be applied. Currently Figma supports 4 types of variables: color, number, string, and boolean variable. And today we are going to use string variable to make our prototype. String variable let you store text that you can later use in your design. In another word, you can say a string variable is useful for updating content across screens. So let's move to Figma and start building a prototype. To follow along, grab the copy of the design from the community file linked in the description. First, let's take a look at our prototype again. I'll select this frame and press Shift plus space to look at the quick prototype. Here, when I click on the other categories, you would see the images are changing accordingly. Right? So, to make this prototype, first let's create a frame. I would press F and then let's select iPhone 14 and 15 Pro. Right. So, over here I have made some component already. These are the components which I picked from iOS 18 component library, and I'll quickly add these components into a tray. Great. Now let's start working on a prototype. So over here you can see these frames which contain images, and when I'm going to switch my categories, I'm going to see these 3 states of frame images. So what we're going to do is make a component set and add the instance into our frame. Before doing that, let's first rename these frames. So for this frame, I will write as t-shirt. This one will call jeans. And this one will call sneakers. Naming these frames are very important because they will help us in making our prototype through the string variable, and I'll let you know how. So once we are done with the naming, let's select all of these frames, and then on the toolbar, go to component and create component set. Let's rename this component set to fashion categories. Great. Now what we are going to do is take one of this instance, Command C, and then paste it into our frame, Command V. Let's position this properly. 1760. Great. Now over here you can see we have an instance, and I can change the variant from the right hand side of our sidebar. Sneaker, jeans, t-shirt. Now what we have to do is add our action buttons. So let's add a button, and we have a sample button. So I'll select this button and press Command D or Control D to duplicate this button. Let's change the name to t-shirt. Great. Again, let's change the frame names as well. Now that we have our screen, we have our image, and we have our action, let's create a string variable. So deselect everything and on the right sidebar, click on local variables. Here you can see an option to create variable. Click on create variable, go to string. So here let's name it as fashion categories. And let's add a starting value of t-shirt. Great. Press enter and let's close this tab. Great. Our screen is done. The images are there and the actions are there. Now let's add interaction over here. So let's select our first button. Go to prototype and add interaction. On tab, set variable, select a string variable and add the expression t-shirt. Now, whenever you click on this variable icon, you would see the action that we have assigned to this action button. So here I've written the expression t-shirt, which means whenever you click on this t-shirt button, it would fetch all the layers and make it appear on the screen, which has the layer names of t-shirt. This can be text as well. So let's do the same for other action buttons as well. I'll click on jeans, add interaction, on tab, set variable, fashion category string variable and add the expression jeans. Great. Same we'll do for sneakers, add interaction, on tab, set variable, fashion category and I'll write the expression sneaker. Now we have to do only one thing. Select the instance. And if you see on the component section on the right sidebar, you would see a variable icon here. When you click on the variable icon, you have the option to add the string variable. Now, when you select the frame and press shift space to open the prototype, you can see the images are changing accordingly. So we have successfully added a string variable. But one thing is missing here. If you see, all these action buttons are right now in same state and I cannot see which one is selected over here. So earlier we had these three primary buttons and now let's add secondary button. So now that we have all of these three variants, let's first rename these frames accordingly. So t-shirt, jeans and then sneaker. Great. Now I'll select all of these three frames and on the toolbar create component set. Great. So now that we have our component set, and I'll rename this component set as well to selection, category selection. Okay, now that we have our component set, let's start adding action to these buttons. So if you see, whenever I'm going to click on jeans, the state of this variant need to change to its second state. So I'll select jeans and I'll select jeans from the third variant and I'll add an interaction that would be tap an instant and that would change it to second variant. Similarly, I would do that for all the secondary buttons. Now let's go to design and then select one of these variants and I'll press Command C or Control C and add it into our design. So now we have our new buttons with our new states. But one thing is missing here. If you see on the right hand side in the sidebar, we haven't added the string variable to this instance yet. So we'll click on the variable icon and select fashion category string variable. Great. Now what will happen is, if I select this frame and press shift space to open a prototype, here you can see I can click on other buttons and the state is also changing and the images are also changing accordingly. So this is our final prototype. So apart from those prototypes, I have made one similar prototype which is similar to what we have learned till now. So over here you can see, so this is a landing page of a t-shirt and at the bottom you can see there are color variants of that same t-shirt. So if I click on the other variants, you can see the images are changing accordingly and also the text is changing with them. So if I click on yellow variant, the color changed to yellow. So how do we do that? So in this frame we have our first component which have 3 different variants. We have our second component which would be the color, and we have a third component which would be the selection of the color variants. So we have our black selection, we have yellow selection, and we have blue selection. So in order to make this work, we'll create a new string variable. I'll go into the local variable, select my old string variable and press Shift plus Enter to duplicate that variable. So let's first change the name to color variant. And we'll change the starting text to black. And let's start attaching this variable, color variable. I'll select the bottom component and I'll select color variant. Now in order to change the text, all you have to do is select the text layer, and then on this text section you would see the variable icon and you can change that to color variant. And now if you press Shift space and change the variants, you would see the image and the text both are changing accordingly. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more design insights. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.